And okay, recording is in progress. Okay, so we'll just start it. Hey everyone, welcome to a Cardano podcast. We're not quite sure what to call this yet, but we will by the time we release this video. How about we start things off with just a little introduction? So starting with you, James.
Okay, hey, I'm James, the stake pool operator for Cardano Mint. I have the stake pool maximum mint with the ticker AMINT. And I just do art, current events. I research projects on Catalyst, vote for proposals, and I just try and educate the community on security, stake pools, how to store their crypto, pretty much anything in the Cardano space.
Very nice. And what about you, George?
All right, I operate Bruin, short for Blade Runner, a stake pool that's been around since the Shelley launch. And on other activities, I also operate some e-commerce websites, and I do a lot of trading as well. And I've been involved with Cardano both on the Catalyst side, and I'm going to be doing a launch of a physical NFT soon. And yeah, that's where I am.
Thanks. Reese?
I'm Reese. I run Stoic Pool. You can check that out on YouTube or on the social medias. Basically, outside of the stake pool, I'm a personal trainer. I do like gymnastics and stuff. So I basically spend my days teaching people handstands and muscle ups. So it's pretty chilled. Do some websites and stuff like that on the side. And yeah, learning about smart contracts. I'm hoping to jump on the second round of Plutus Pioneers, actually, because I missed out on that first one. But I'm learning about that. And I'm trying to figure out putting a team of devs together now to do something once smart contracts are released.
Yeah, Brian, let me know if you need any guys. I have 3 or 5 guys that I'm working with right now. I just put them in contact with a business owner here in Vegas that he's an engineer. He builds buildings, and he's having problems with bids. And so he wanted to implement smart contracts. So I sent Logan and a few other guys on him, and he said it went great. So if you're looking, I can hook you up with those guys later.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Any connections at the minute is great. It's really really helpful.
Yeah. Very cool.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What
Awesome.
about yourself, Astra?
Oh yeah. So well, my name's Andrew. I run Astra Stake Pool, ticker Astra. I've got a filmmaking background. So once I had my stake pool up and running, I was thinking about how can I contribute to the Cardano community. So I just fell back onto my filmmaking background and just tried to just did some editing work, and I put my first video out there, and I didn't know if it would get a big response or anything, but thankfully it kind of has a little bit. So then it just encourages me to make more and more of these videos. At first, I try to make a video once a week, but I just burned myself out. It was just too difficult. It was very time consuming to make these videos. So right now I've found a great medium of a great balance of just making a video every 3 weeks. So yeah, that's all I can manage at the moment. A new video every 3 weeks. My last video just came out today. Awesome. And so yeah, I just released it like 2 hours ago or so. But yeah,
that's exciting. You know, before we get into anything, sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry.
You're actually one of the reasons that I thought I'd be able to run a stake pool, because I saw your video. I think that might have been the video you're talking about last summer, and I was trying to figure out how it might be possible, like, because I was just super excited about it. I was like, I want to get involved. Yeah. And I saw that video and I thought, okay, I actually feel like I could do this, you know. And then I must have spent a month and a half just learning everything about it, like in contact with some guys who work in IT, and I was like literally learned everything about cloud computing and Linux. I just made it my full-time job. And then at one point I was like, yes, Astra sorted me out. Like, you, because of that video, I wouldn't be here right now if you hadn't put that video out, because that made me believe that it was actually possible for me to do. So thanks for that.
Nice, man.
Oh, thanks. Andrew. Thanks for that. That's really great. I mean, I hope that would have that effect on some people, because I don't come from a technical background, but I just figured that when I if I was able to explain it the way I did it, maybe other people who don't come from a technical background might be able to grasp these concepts a bit easier. Because I did look at lots of other videos before I made my stake pool, and some of them were very technical, and I had to write down notes and everything. And it was such a learning curve. It was a really sharp learning curve. And like at the end of it, even though you've built a pool, one other aspect that I wasn't quite prepared for, I don't think many of us were, was the marketing aspect of it. There's like a huge marketing aspect when it comes to proof of stake pools compared to proof of work. And yeah, so that's what led me to try and continue to make more videos and continue to try and engage with the community in any way I could.
Yeah, that marketing's a big thing. I was lucky because I was confident on video. Even though I was just literally using my phone. That was one thing I committed to doing when I started my pool, which was just to put just an update for the pool every epoch. Just as soon as we turn, I'm making a video about what happened that epoch and like a quick update. They're like 5-minute videos or something, but now I've got like over 1,000 subscribers. I've got loads of people, almost 100 people delegating to the pool. Like it's been massive doing the videos. Massive.
Yeah, and I like your videos. I like the Stoic pool videos. I
Man,
I noticed them. I noticed them about like a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, and I noticed that you kept putting it out there every 5 days. There'd be a new video out, and you know, that's really good. Yeah,
it's mostly just rambling. You know, like it's not exactly particularly insightful, but it definitely it has built a little community. It's quite fun.
Yesterday, I was looking how to send ADA using a QR code, because I've never done that before. I usually just copy and paste the address. But I just, I Googled it and your video came up first. So you have a video there explaining how to send ADA using QR code, and it was very helpful.
Oh, cool.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm checking out your videos, man. These are awesome. Like, I love your thumbnails and everything. You're great.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
some
you know what that
too.
is, right? I just get I use Canva. Like I just use Canva and I go through and I find like nice flowery landscapes and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, that's the mood I'm in today. That's the video. That's the thumbnail. That I try and make them just fun and interesting, really.
Yeah, it's consistent yet really different at the same time. You get all these different colors, and yeah, it looks really great, man. Nice work.
And it's super simple. Like it's literally the most basic little bit of editing I could do with like a little tweak to make it a bit more visual. But like it's not really a lot of work for me to do those things. Like, once you got set up and you know your process, then you can get through it quite quickly.
Did you guys hear about the I think it's 2.3 billion BTC heist by those two brothers in South Africa?
Yeah, I didn't hear
that. People were storing their BTC on the exchange, and these two brothers that operated the exchange had obviously they're controlling the keys to the store of their customers' BTC, so they took off with it. That's even worse.
Yeah.
I can't believe people are so brave. You know, like
well, I have some on my exchange.
No, but I mean, just to do pull it out of the exchange and just like leave everyone hanging. Like, how far do you have to run to like hide from that stuff? You know, like, I'd be scared. The
interesting thing about South Africa is the cryptocurrency isn't considered legal tender, so there really isn't legislation to cover the theft of it. So they're going to get away with it. Only thing is, people are going to hunt them down. I don't know how, but somehow they're going to have to be running all their lives. The point is, don't store your crypto on exchanges unless you're trading.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Trade it and 100%. Then get it off. And that's one of the things that I push as well, is like, you guys, you have to understand, leaving it on an exchange is like leaving it on the counter of a bank. The bank is safe, but if somebody walks in and they want to hack it, they're going to grab your stuff. You have to take it home and lock it down. It's so important.
Let me ask you a question. When you guys do put like crypto on an exchange to sell for money or sell to a stable coin, how long do you put it on your exchange? Just a few days or a week or just like a few minutes? Yeah,
I mean, it depends on the trade that I'm going to make, because I also do some trading. I mean, it could be, it depends. It would be a designated amount. It wouldn't be my total amount. It would be a specific amount that I'm putting on, that I'm working with. And it depends on how long I see the trade come into maturity, and then I get it out or do whatever. So it varies.
So it depends.
For me, it's just making the move, and that's it. Otherwise, I'll keep it off. George, you probably have a better opinion on this if you do more trading personally.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just like sell.
Yeah, the rule of thumb is only use what you can lose. So if you're emotionally attached to the amount of money that you will be able to lose on an exchange that gets hacked, then you shouldn't be having that money on that exchange. I do have a significant amount on Binance. I sort of have a little bit of trust with Binance, but they can also be hacked. Yes. But yeah, I keep a certain amount on the exchange just for convenience, instead of going back and forth between Daedalus or Euro and back to any other wallets that I have. I do have an amount that I keep on the exchange, but there are other exchanges that I use for other coins. I don't keep anything there. I try to get it off immediately. I'm thinking, if I think like Bitmart, for example, you can only get certain coins on Bitmart. You can't get on other exchanges. Get in, get out. But Binance to me seems to be a safe one. I wouldn't even store on Bitfinex, for example, because it's been a bit dodgy for me too. Some of the big exchanges can be dodgy, but Binance has been safe.
Yeah, so far for me, I haven't had a hack. I've been doing this so long. I was setting up the Binance China. That was my first Binance account. And then do you remember how long ago that? And then they said, yeah, we're going to kick off all the American traders. If you guys don't get your money off in 90 days, we're keeping it. And then they opened up Binance US. And so I had to transfer everything from there. But Binance has always been pretty secure. But they all seem to go down when there's like big recoveries coming, or when there's something big in the market. They always seem to just bog down to a stop. So I just don't like using them. I think we're actually getting ready to do some direct onboarding. They were talking about a project. Well, have you guys have heard of Cody, right?
Yeah.
COTI, yeah. Obviously, right? So Cody is getting ready to do some stuff with Cardano where we're going to be able to do some direct onboarding without a repository. And that's going to be really exciting for our network. I'm kind of excited about the possibilities there. Your money's always going to be up. Yeah. What's up?
Go. Carry on. I was just going to say I applied to do AdaPay when they announced it over the Africa Special. So I'm waiting on, they've accepted it in, but just use it for my PT business and stuff like that. Like I've got a couple of mates who like run little coffee shops and like little vegan-y places and like little trendy little stores and that in London. And they're all trying to do the same as well, like trying to take crypto. So Coti's a really good one for it because they're setting up network with loads of other networks, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think if I've read right.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, it's multi-ledger. It's like it's multi-coin. So I don't know what's going to happen to the repositories once this happens. I mean, why would anybody use a repository if you don't need the KYC anymore when you go through Cody, right? You don't need any of those things. You can literally directly onboard, make your transaction, and get out. I don't know what's going to happen to those repositories. I don't see why people would use them at a fee because they charge fees. Then they hold your funds for a while. For example, Binance. If you move money onto Binance, you can't move that money off of Binance for 10 days. And so they sit on your money. Did you guys know that?
No.
Yeah, if you move money on, like let's say you set up an escrow account from your bank, send it over to Binance, you can purchase crypto with it. But if you want to get it off that exchange, you have to wait 10 days. Before
what if you're just withdrawing any money, or just direct if you change your mind on that deposit?
There's a 10-day vesting period, and they say it's because the banks actually don't send them the money immediately. They say they're crediting you. They'll let you buy the crypto, and then when the money actually arrives, then you can remove the funds off of Binance. Now, for people that have had Binance,
it's not happened to me in the UK. Maybe it's different. Maybe it's just different because of any legislation or something. But I've sold crypto and then withdrawn cash straight away.
Me too.
Within an hour, it's deposited.
It could be the difference between Binance US and Binance International.
Could be. Now, this is on the initial setup on accounts. So if we've had accounts for a long time, you can move money in, move money out.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. And the reason why this sticks into my head is because I'm working with small business owners in town through a CPA's office. And we're running a pilot program to onboard his small businesses. And so we're trying to streamline the process of getting them to make their purchase of crypto, which means they have to use a repository at this time. And then it has to vest for a little while before they can actually move it off of the exchange onto a place where they can delegate it. And so it's turning into this really slow process. And so I'm really eager to see decentralized or repositories come out so I can get these guys on immediately, delegate it immediately, and then, you know, speed up the process. It's really bad right now.
It's interesting just how everything's just changing so fast now. Like now the ball's kind of started rolling properly, like everyone's jumping on it, everyone's trying to figure it out. Like someone's going to come up with a perfect solution very soon, and then everything will just, it'll be like, this kind of conversation will just be in the past. It'll just be all over. Like, it's really exciting, I think.
I'm ready. I'm actually submitting a Catalyst proposal for this because I want to work with some guys and get some material going, some turnkey material, because let's face it, we all have small businesses in the area. We all pay our taxes. And I have a friend, I just so happen to have a friend that owns a CPA firm. He's got hundreds of clients. One of his clients is a billionaire. And he said, hey, this year, I have never filed so many tax returns with people that made gains on crypto. He's all, so I want to know what this is about. I want to know what's going on. So we went over to his office. We whiteboarded, you know, exactly what was going on with crypto. We talked to him about Cardano. And by the time I left, he was like, look, I got to get involved with this. And when you guys onboard me, then I want to send something out to all my business clients and let them know that you can onboard them. And so you guys, if you have, I mean, I know you guys have businesses in town and stuff like that. I'm going to the hub. I'm going to the people that do their taxes, because these guys are seeing that crypto is causing great gains in their portfolios, right? So these guys are really, their attention is ready. They see it and they want to get involved. My particular CPA friend, he was like, you know, I made a wallet a year ago and I just didn't know how to do it. It was too complicated. I was nervous. And so I built the wallet and I sat there and I didn't touch it until I came along. Then we got him to make his purchase. That's when I figured out the Binance issue. And then he's buying Cardano on a regular basis right now. And then he's waiting for his Trezor to come in so he can stake it. But if you guys are looking to onboard more people, I know I am. My stake pool had the IOHK award for 15 million, which was nice when I had it. But when the 15 million left, all my delegators I had accumulated left with it. And so my pool is pretty low right now. I got to build it back up. And so I found this little avenue that may work. And so I'll just let you guys, you know, do with it what you will if you guys want to hit up local businesses or local CPA offices, because they know they're seeing it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, but maybe it would be good to get this while we're recording, just how you got into Cardano or crypto. Did you get in at the beginning in 2017, or did you only find out about it kind of recently?
Yeah, I've been a long-term investor and trader. So yeah, I've been trading cryptocurrency in general for 5-6 years now. Cardano, I was buying at like 2.8 cents in 17, somewhere around there. And then when I heard about the release of the project, that's when I got into the stake pool. So yeah, I've been in it for quite a while. But you guys?
I got involved in Cardano through other currencies. I started off with buying IOTA. This is way back in 2016. Then once you get involved in that, once you go down that rabbit hole, you get involved in the other currencies, and Cardano came along. And then I started buying Cardano at 10 cents and 20 cents. And then obviously when it fell down to 4 cents, that's where I got my majority of my ADA. The whiteboard video, that was the catalyst for most people. Charles Hoskinson's whiteboard video. I'm sure you guys also watched that and also fell in love with the project. I am invested in other currencies, but I'd say the majority is in ADA. And it's the project that I feel is solving many problems that Ethereum isn't solving. Obviously beating BTC because it's deaf, dumb, and blind, according to Charles. Yeah, I'm committed to ADA for quite a while.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's with all the development going on right now, I just don't see how this train can stop. It's not like any other crypto. I mean, this guy, he designed it to self-fund, which is revolutionary. Yep. There's no crypto that self-funds, which means you're not going to ever run out of money to perpetuate development, which has always been the key problem with any cryptocurrency, is running out of money. And then how do you find developers? Well, he's using Ella, which is made by Apple, to onboard everybody. It's a universal platform to onboard everybody. And so now he's got every programmer in the world that could potentially just start writing code directly on it. So it's funded, it's got developers already, and it's made better. Proof of stake is way better than proof of work. We already see it working, and it's, you know, causing a lot of excitement in the space. I mean, I think Cardano is like one of the most staked cryptos. It's the #1 staked crypto in the world, right? Like there's nothing.
How does it
that
compare
even
to
comes
DOT?
close. I'm sorry?
How does it compare to DOT?
It
In terms of
does.
staking.
It blows it away. Yeah, in fact, I just saw a comparison chart this morning, and the percentages were significantly lower. I think it was second place, but it was only second place by a significant margin. I mean, it wasn't even close. In fact, I think I had something up just a few minutes ago that showed that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing stats, but I don't have them up here with me. I do know one thing about DOT is that when you stake with DOT, you have to, there's like a 28-day lock-in period. So if the price goes up to like the moon, it would still take you 28 days to get that DOT off that exchange. Sorry, not that exchange, but off your staking. Maybe there are shortcuts to that, but I'm not aware of that. And it's funny to talk about staking in Cardano at the moment, because I mean, Cardano gets this bad reputation for being really slow to market. It takes years for them to develop. But when we just compare proof of stake in Cardano compared to proof of stake in Ethereum, like Ethereum staking to me sounds really risky. Like you can't, first you need, if you want to be your own validator, you need 32 Ethereum, which is like 64,000 US dollars at the moment. And if you want to join a pool, you have to send them your Ethereum. You know, you don't keep you can't do it from your own wallet. You have to send it to a pool of Ethereum that will then stake it from there. And that just seems really, really risky and really ridiculous. I like the way, so it starts to show why Cardano's approach to this is starting to, you know, starting to like show why it's better than the other ways.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we've got our model, which, you know, it's been built from the foundation this way, right? And now we have Ethereum who's trying to switch into Ethereum 2.0. So what do? They start building these staking pools, but you have to stake your money on a ETH 2.0 smart contract, and you don't acquire funds. Your rewards are not added to your delegation. They're calculating how much you're going to earn over time, and then eventually, when ETH 2.0 comes out, then they'll give you those funds. But nobody knows when that is, and your funds are locked. You can't move them, you can't transfer them. If the market starts to crash and you want to recoup your wealth, you're locked in there. And to me, it's a recipe for disaster. It just seems like really, really scary. I wouldn't be staking on ETH. I wouldn't do it for so many reasons. Not because I don't like ETH. I've been around a long time. ETH is a great project. The way that they're designing the staking model, it seems like they're holding people hostage so that they don't lose market share during all of this, try and play catch up and recovery and rebuild and redesign. And I would rather just stake on Cardano and make money that way.
Yeah, it sounds more like where some other like blockchains have a masternode setup where you just hold a certain amount and that allows you to validate. Like VeChain does it, doesn't it? And like a bunch of other do something very similar. But I didn't think that was actually how it was going to work in the end. I thought it was going to end up more like Cardano or even like DOT or something with just a lockup. I didn't realize that it was like masternode style where you need that 32 ETH and that's it. That's eye-opening for me, because to me that just doesn't sound like it would ever be secure. It just seems I'd never get involved with it, I don't think.
Yeah, it seems like it was something they threw together at the last minute to try and compete with Cardano. Like, oh, we have to switch and this isn't working. And so now they're just scrambling to try and repair, you know, whatever they did. And it makes me wonder, that conversation when they were talking to Charles Hoskinson, when he was the co-founder, when he was working with Ethereum, were these the discussions that Charles was having with them, saying, look, we can't move forward if we keep doing this. These problems are going to come. I wonder, because it seems like he pre-solved all these problems with Cardano and just left Ethereum in the dust. He left Ethereum to do whatever it was going to do. And now you can clearly see Ethereum is really struggling. Like the bad press alone with losing money because of staking is really going to be devastating overall. And Cardano's just humming along. It's just working perfectly, no problems.
One of the unintended consequences of the design of our protocol was that these delegators have a vested interest to promote Cardano. They're earning rewards. I don't think it was designed to have them promoted that much. That is what makes Cardano so interesting, is that we have this huge community, which Mike Novogratz calls a cult community, but it's a consequence of us, our delegators, being invested, which is so advantageous against so many other coins. I think after the smart contract launch, we got good days coming ahead of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, and I try and do comparisons. Like, you trade stocks, George. So, you know, you see 4 years ago, Ethereum was what, if
$40,
something like that.
Oh no, how many years ago?
4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I can
32. I remember 32. I bought my first ETH at about 14, if I remember correctly, and then I went to 32, and I sold.
Yeah. So yeah, it was around $40, $50. You know, and when smart contracts started to come online at about that time, we see that even though it was dipping, it was still always trending up slightly. It just went really slow and then blew up. So I wonder with Cardano, since it's a third generation blockchain, with funding, with development, with onboarding, and now with smart contracts and an ERC20 converter, you guys, this is a recipe for a windfall of just literally pulling everything out of Ethereum because of all of its issues and starting to run it right on Cardano. And when these guys start to run it on Cardano and they start making more profits and everything is running well because everything works, you really think they're ever going to port back over to Ethereum? I don't think they're going to. I mean, I know it sounds like really extreme to say it, but there's a possibility that if Cardano does everything right and Ethereum keeps moving in this direction without any major improvements really soon, it's possible Ethereum could just go to dust eventually. And that has happened in cryptos before. You know, I think they will work to keep it, you know, going, but they're in a risky situation right now with how they're doing things, I think.
Like you guys were saying, a lot of these problems have already been preempted and like already they've started the process of figuring it out before they even came up. I think like Charles and IHK are just so ahead of the ball on it that's what people can't get their head around. They're like, how could that be the issue? How could that be the issue? And like they're already running with it and they've already got like solutions in the back of the mind. They're already writing the papers on it. They're already doing the research to figure out stuff as it comes up. They're just like, it's taken a while to get the ball rolling, but now it's actually moving. It's just gaining so much momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm excited for the future. I have a lot of ideas and things that I want to work on. And I'm just like you, George. I'm kind of like scrambling to figure out how to do video editing and scrambling how to market properly just to keep my pool up. So once I get that stability, then I can focus more on the programming side and try and actually do some development. So
it looks like you need a YouTube channel nowadays for your pool.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So reluctantly, I'm going to have to go down that route too.
Yeah. Let me know if you need any help, man, because I can truncate your learning timetable. I've been learning this stuff. It's all fresh in my head. I'd be happy to share it with you. And I do use DaVinci Resolve because of Andrew. Andrew hooked me up and he pointed me in that direction. It's really good software. It's free and it's really easy to use once you just kind of learn, you know, just a few of the buttons and how it works. So,
yeah, and there's heaps of tutorials about it online. It's not yeah. And I mean, I've seen other pools market without using YouTube. Like I've seen some pools be really, really good at Twitter, but like Twitter's just not my, it's not my forte, you know. I'm not very comfortable thinking about tweets and tweeting all the time. I mean, more power to the guys who are comfortable doing that. But yeah, I see Twitter marketing, I see YouTube marketing. I don't see much else.
Yeah. You just have to reach out and grab a group of people. And like I said, I've tried YouTube. I'm getting a lukewarm response at best. I know it's because of my poor videos, but they're improving over time, and I'm hoping. I think my videos are terrible, guys. I really do. I put them out there and I hit the button and I'm like, oh gosh, please, But I know over time I'll get better. I just have to just keep doing it. But that's why I thought of maybe I just need to go in town and see if I could literally get some people that can see me and can see the project, and they know the stake pool owner and operator, and they can ask me questions directly. And that I think that hand-holding approach might bring in more delegators. At least that's what I think. So that's why I'm trying those CPA offices.
The YouTube channel is a win, though. Definitely a win on the YouTube channel, though. If you just keep at it, eventually it'll get a little bit of momentum. Like it takes ages. I was going at the pool up for 3 months before I made a block, and in that time I'd got to, I think, 145k total, like including my pledge, all my mates who I knew were involved in it, their stake, and I just got lucky that one time, and then it hit the block, and then stuff started moving. And the more times that you do the videos for your YouTube as well, the more opportunities you have for people to find you, and like it gains momentum. It definitely gains momentum. If I'm looking for something, I don't even Google stuff anymore. Like I just search on YouTube, because it's so much easier to just digest a video. You see it happening. You're not just like reading or trying to sift through information. You can skip through them very quickly and easily. That it's such a good medium. And if you can get used to making videos, I think that is going to be the way that you're going to be able to market the pool the easiest. Like it is a long learning curve, but if you're doing them regularly, every time you put one out, you're doing something slightly different. You're learning something, you tweak it, you tweak it. And people, like I did, one of my first videos that actually kind of got somewhere was when they first opened up like the Marlow playground. And I just did an example contract with Blockly, because I had no idea how to write what was it? You had the Haskell option or the Marlow option, and you had like a JavaScript, I think, or something like that. And I just went Blockly. I imagined a thing for my personal training, and it took me like an hour and a half to record, and I was a mess. And because I wasn't used to editing myself with the screen going on, like I was moving like my video all over the place, and people commenting like, sort that out, do this, try and fix it with this, like get that out of the way, we don't care about this and that. I got more feedback on that terrible video. I've got like thousands and thousands of views on it, and people have reached out to me like interested in doing something with the smart contracts, and like it's led to more videos, it's led to more like communication with random people from like all over the world. And if you can get that to work for you, it doesn't matter if it's terrible right now. Like you'll be surprised what one actually picks up, and it all just turns into more opportunities and more potential businesses that you can get stuck into. And for me, it's been game changing, absolutely game changing.
Absolutely, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's also about trust. I mean, the more times people can see you, see your face, see that you're an actual human being, and see you talking about relevant things to Cardano, they begin to trust you, and they say, okay, well, I'll support this guy and this guy's pool. So that's one benefit of having a YouTube channel and putting yourself out there. So have we convinced you, George? Are you gonna start a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I'm going to have to start. I have to. We're going to be marketing this NFT that I told you earlier about just before we went online. So it's going to require a YouTube channel. I'll definitely hit you up, James. Amen.
Yes, sir.
Sorry,
yes, sir. James.
Somebody offered their help. I think it was either Andrew or James. Yeah, James.
With me, buddy. I'll help you. I will. I really will.
There's definitely something interesting going on there, and I definitely need some help on that side. So I'll call you guys on that. About Twitter, I don't know if you've noticed it, but most of your followers, at least my followers, are other Twitter stake pool operators. So it sounds like when you send out a tweet, you're in this echo chamber. You're not really getting out to the ordinary delegator out there or ADA enthusiast. So I don't know if you have had the same experience that sometimes when you go out there, you're not really contacting the real person you want to contact, which is the potential delegator. How do you guys feel about that?
I changed that strategy. I started reaching out in Twitter on finance and investment. I stopped going in and liking on other stake pool operators and getting those guys they're following that particular stake pool because they're delegated to them. They're following that one. You don't want to take delegators from other people. There's plenty of people on this planet. We don't need to do that. And so what I started to do is go into finance, anything interesting that where people would be kind of have it in their head that, okay, investing is something important. Like obviously I wouldn't do sports or anything like that. But what I noticed is I get a lot more delegators that way. I'll look for a good comment that somebody made that has a lot of sub comments on it. And I'll go into that comment. I'll make a comment on it, and then I'll like everybody else's comment. I get followers on Twitter constantly that way. New followers that don't know about stake pools, that are discovering what I'm doing, and I'm hoping to get some loyalty there. Yeah. It's going to take time. It all has to grow.
That's awesome. I have entirely the same experience as George. Like, I was literally just thinking while you were thinking, and I was trying to think back, and everyone I'm connected to on Twitter through Stoic is just other pool operators, people from IOHK. Like, it's great for networking, but it's not really good for attracting any delegators. That's crazy. Literally never thought of it like that. It's 100% true.
And it's good to see what other stake pool operators are posting about, you know, and sometimes you get this debate, you know, there's you've probably seen it on Twitter, there's like multi-pool debate versus single pool. And then I usually stay out of these debates, but it can get really harsh. I'll just be reading, and oh man, it can be, it's like entertaining, but harsh.
Yeah, it gets sense. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the way the system was designed is we are supposed to have single stake pools. We're not supposed to have multiples because that makes the network vulnerable for Sybil attacks. It's been explained in the literature. I mean, we're supposed to have one, but it seems like once that money starts rolling in or people get saturated, their next natural move, instead of saying, hey, go to my friend Andrew's stake pool, fill his up, mine's full, they go, I'm opening pool number 2 because I can start making double the money. And so that factor kicks in, and now we've got people that just keep making masses of pools, more and more and more pools. And eventually it's going to centralize the network if we don't, you know, work on either developing our pools and kind of spread that out, or somehow really get the message passed on that, guys, we really should be supporting each other, not just building multiple pools. And then when things go bad, we have a team of stake pools to take care of each other because we all helped each other grow. And people are trying to be islands. And, you know, if they ever have any issue or they get hacked or they get a bad reputation, who's going to run to their rescue? Because they basically, I don't know. I just think we really should be taking care of each other. We should be helping each other grow, just like this. We should be meeting together, strategizing, talking about the potential of the network, sharing ways that we can bring in more delegators. I mean, where are you guys located? Andrew, I know you're in Germany.
I'm in London.
London.
I'm in Germany.
And George?
I'm based on an island called Madeira in the middle of the Atlantic.
Yeah,
Wow.
so you guys are not my competition. you guys are not my competition. No, I don't. Andrew, do you know it?
No, but I'm looking it up.
Maybe
right
Reese
now.
has heard of it. Sometimes you get flights to
I
Madeira.
bet it sounds
special.
nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know, right? It's on an island. That's awesome. But like I said, you guys are not my competition. You guys, the people that you touch and market to are very different from mine. And so I'm comfortable with sharing. Some people are like, oh, don't share that. Keep that secret. I'm like, no, we need to help each other. And if somebody has some good ideas from me, please share it. Because I think there's plenty of people on the planet for us to divide amongst a stake pool. You know, $60 million on this planet is not a lot of money when you're talking about the entire planet delegating, you know? So I just don't see you guys as competition. I want to help everybody. And I really want to change the mentality of stake pools as us opening up to each other and sharing and helping instead of closing up and locking down and keeping everything secret. That's the way things were before. And that's how we got into this 1% and 2%, you know, rich. Is everybody kept isolating and consolidating into one group, and now everybody else is excluded. And I don't want to see that happen with this. The whole point is to dispel that narrative. And you know, I want open pools. I want us to all communicate openly and share.
Yeah, I agree
absolutely.
with you.
That's why, like you guys, I know had mentioned talking about this.
Yeah, this is a big deal.
But
No, go ahead.
yeah,
Please.
from the single pool alliance is great, and I've been a member of that for ages, and I've been trying to get people like in a situation like this where, like we were talking briefly on the chat about setting something up like this, and I've been trying to get people from the single pool alliance on videos just so I can promote the actual single pool mentality and that approach to running the pools and promote that on YouTube, because it's something that people in Cardano, like especially the pool operators, know about. But outside of that, it's not really like that isn't marketed particularly. You know, there's like the controversy and the discussion between SPOs, which is always a bit of drama. But outside of that, it's not really it's not like every average investor is exposed to that, and that needs to be more of a conversation. So I've got a couple of calls lined up for next week from people, other operators from all over the world, just who are willing. After I put it in like 5 times over the course of 2 weeks, and then like a couple of people were like, "Oh, I'll join in then. Yeah, I'll come and have a chat."
Yeah,
So I'm really looking forward to that. And
yeah, anytime you guys have a chat, we should always get together, and we should always do that. It's so important that we change the way that people are thinking about us, and we start to unite, and you know, that's what matters in the end. We're not going to do well.
I find a lot of people are quite like they kind of don't want to be known particularly, or they're not comfortable being on the videos and stuff, and that is a bit of a barrier for a lot of people, especially if you're not used to being in front and talking to people in the same way. So I understand why some pool operators might not be so extroverted and willing to just be put out there, but it's going to be, I think it's going to make a massive difference to like single pools if we can actually promote that mindset and help educate every average person who might be watching a video on YouTube about the importance of it and why it's a good idea, and just expose other SPOs like who don't have their own channels and who do struggle to get delegation, because it's really hard getting in front of people. Yeah. I think doing this especially is going to be great, but then like promoting other pools as well is really going to help, because you need to teach people.
Absolutely. And one thing that is really, I think needs to be explained out well is that as long as your stake pool is up and running, it's working. And some people have this idea where, oh, well, this guy's a better stake pool operator because he has, you know, 3 or 4 pools. So he's doing something that these stake pools are not. And that's just not true. All stake pools are created equal. As long as it's up and running and minting blocks, it's running just as well as any other stake pool. Now, the only things that you should be concerned about are security. You know, are these wallets, you know, cold? Are the cold keys off the node? Like, is it safe from getting hacked? And even if it gets hacked, your money's still safe. You just move to a different pool if they mess up. So these things really need to be painted out clearly for delegators. So when they see a pool they like, they don't say, hey, I kind of like this pool, but you know, he doesn't have a lot of delegators and he doesn't have a lot of funds. I'm going to go with this one because obviously he's doing something better. That's not true. When my pool had the 15 million, I was doing like 27 blocks a day. You know, I was just booming, you know. So
27 blocks a day?
Well, I think it was 27,
an epoch.
Yeah, 27 blocks in an epoch. Sorry. Yeah, I did 27 blocks in an epoch. Oh man, could you imagine? But 27 blocks per epoch. And it's like that wasn't because I changed how my pool ran. It was the delegators. And once the delegators understand, oh wow, when a pool is smaller, the division of rewards is less, which means you actually get a higher return on smaller pools initially, because you're not dividing it over thousands of people. And so people should see small pools as a great opportunity to make more on their delegation initially until the pool gets saturated. And if you guys go to my pool, you know, last week or last epoch, I was like at 7% for that epoch because I wasn't dividing my rewards between too many people. And once people realize, hey, these smaller pools are kicking out like 6-7%, I'm hoping that can kind of create some awareness so that people, you know, gravitate towards smaller pools.
Well, I mean, it's 6-7% in some epochs, and then other epochs it could be 0, because you know there's also the chance that there is no blocks minted at that epoch. But over a long period of time, the small pools, medium pools, and large pools, it's supposed to average out to be about the same. Of about 5.5% or 5.3%. And yeah, but it is a matter of trying to educate the Cardano delegators to all these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would help if the deadless ranking system would be revised. I don't know if you were part of the SPO community call the day before yesterday, were you? I saw both of you two there. I didn't see Reese there. I wasn't there. But I saw you guys.
I've joined a couple. But I haven't joined the SPO community call, but I do sometimes join the IOHK ones. You know, they do the weekly ones that you can jump in on. If you guys, any of you done that? Where they have the discussion about what's been going on. Oh, they're really interesting.
Sometimes.
Good.
They're
Okay.
really
Yeah.
interesting.
I might jump onto one of them.
Yeah, I catch those all the time. In fact, I think the last one about Daedalus and the ranking issues, I didn't realize I had hit my camera on and I was getting home. And so you can see me in my car, like I'm sitting there driving and I'm watching and I'm driving and I'm running upstairs and I get my all set up and I'm like, oh man, my camera was on. I didn't know that. I just hit it, you know, so that's funny.
I saw that. I saw
Yeah.
that.
I was like, oops, oh well, I'm making a ruckus over here.
But yeah, that was a very interesting meeting, the SPOCRO meeting. Do you want to talk more about it, George?
When I joined the SPOCRO meeting, I wasn't really prepared because I had some ideas that I wanted to throw out there. But what happened at SPOCRO did have an effect on whoever is at IOG or IOHK, and reference was made to it in this last SPO community call. So they are looking at readjusting how the desirability index is created for pools. And I would like to see them do away with the actual ranking number of pools instead of being first, second, third, fourth, and this whole series. Just have them in categories like this. If it's a successful block producing pool, you get a star. Done. It doesn't matter whether you've got 62 million ADA pledged or you have, or rather delegated, or whether you have only 1 million delegated to you. I'd like to see things designated into categories. So if a pool doesn't perform well, fall into a category beneath a certain qualification, and people can choose by qualification of pools, not necessarily by their rank. That's an idea that I want to put out there as one of the solutions to solving the deadlist problem.
That's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have said about it. I use Yoroi, but it's exactly the same. It basically goes by ADA pools ranking. And yeah, I think the highest I've ever been recorded that I've noticed was on Pool Tool, and it was 495, and I was over the moon that day. I was literally over the moon. Has no impact at all because no one's ever looking that part. Why would you, you know? But yeah, it's the thing about that Daedalus ranking is like, I feel like I can't imagine, because it's called a ranking system. I can't imagine it without a rank. You know, I always imagine, oh, there's a number one, there's a number two, there's a number. But it's really interesting to think that you could just go with categories and actually like group people rather than having like just a straight list. You know what I mean? It's
well,
yeah. That's just a great idea. I think
we produce blocks on Daedalus, and this was one of the arguments I think that Kyle brought forward was, I'm a block producing pool, but your desirability index for my pool indicates that I'm, well, if you're outside the top 546 or so, or 564, you get a 0 attached to your, there's a little parameter there on the Daedalus rankings where it indicates 0, which is a lie. It's a damn lie. We are producing blocks. We create rewards. We got to get rid of that. I understand that. If it wasn't for Carl, I don't think we would have moved on that, and IOHK wouldn't be revising it so soon. But still, I think so many other improvements have to come along. That the removal of the 0, can't remember what the parameter's called. There's a parameter. You know what it is when you look up on a pool's stats on Daedalus. There's something that says 0. That's wrong. We're producing blocks. We shouldn't be indicated as a 0 rewards or 0 performance pool. That is so devastating for small pools like ourselves. I was in the top 300, 400 for a long time, until just about a month ago when I fell out of it. Also as a consequence of multi-splitting, a lot of pools split it. So one of the reasons why I fell out, I think, is with IOHK saying that they're going to move K to 1,000. A lot of pools split in anticipation of that change. And Binance came along with about 72 pools. So that's chucked out a lot of small pools like mine out of the top 500. I think get rid of the ranking and get them into categories. Done. That's where I see it.
That's a great suggestion. I really like that. I support that. I think that's great. I have a lot of problem with Daedalus as well. Have you guys ever used poolrank.net by the London pool? They've got a ranking system, and they've got a slider.
Is that one with the geographical one? Is that one of the geographical things?
It's got a picture of London.
I think I've seen that website.
It's so good. Shout out to London Pool. But they've got a slider there that it goes from like can't remember, like maximum rewards versus, and then when you slide it across, it's maximum decentralization. And so when you slide it all the way to maximum decentralization, they do promote these smaller pools that are minting blocks and are doing well, but you know, these pools are not at the top of data list because because they don't have that much delegation on them compared to the ones that are at the top of data lists. And the ones at the top of data lists, when you look at them, like they're very close to saturation. You know, they're always just like a few million ADA away from saturation. You know, why don't you just promote the pools underneath that, get them saturated, and promote the ones after that, and just try and spread that ADA around a bit more fair, not fairly, but a bit more, I don't know, I'm losing the word for it, but you know what I mean, just to, appropriately throughout the whole SBO community, rather than actually promoting the ones that are already kind of saturated. And most of them already have several other pools, you know, they have like 2 or 3 other pools, you know, at least. So yeah, I'm in favor of changing the data list ranking somehow. I don't know how to do that.
Andrew, if you go to that poolrank.net and you do the slider to encourage decentralization, you're ranked 14 on their list. Like you're in there, buddy.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's great. I've done that once before, and I was
promoting it.
That's huge.
And then when you put in Astra in the ticker, and no, but it's
that's really good.
But it's true. I mean, something like that. I mean, there's who's in the top 5?
Top 5 is staking 24/7. That's number 1. Zero Stake Pool, MeshNet, Alta Stake Pool, and WASA. It's WAAUS. WAUS.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah. I mean,
I have a completely different list of pools that are top 5.
Where's your slider?
Oh, that's great.
My slider is all the way to encourage decentralization.
Oh, like okay, fair enough. Oh yeah, I was on the opposite. I was on max reward. Sorry. Yeah, okay. You're right.
Yeah. So yeah, if you go to max rewards, then you're going to go to the pools that are the highest saturation, that are pulling the most blocks. And so I was just like, I slid it over to encourage decentralization to see if my pool would show up. And let's see, I think I'm still too low.
This is interesting. I haven't seen the site before. It's interesting where they have the slider between encouraging decentralization and max rewards. It goes to this idea of what IHK calls desirability for their ranking, and it causes me to think that there's going to be a conflict in what is called desirability. There's 2 fields of thought. You want desirability to be a function of how decentralized the network will be. So you want to have as many different pools operating, but then there's desirability on rewards, on your max rewards. So this here demonstrates a conflict that we have in Cardano, in deadlifts. Do we want the desirable pools to be the ones that are the max rewards ones? Or do we want the pools to be desirable as those that are most decentralized? Or we have different pools. So this has to be rethought, rehashed, because there's a conflict. Either we go for a better decentralized world, or we go for a more max rewards world in our deadlist rankings. And this pool rank net, which I only found now through you guys, is an interesting example of what we can do in terms of ranking in deadlists. Very interesting. Very impressed.
There are some tools that have been made that are like have completely rethought like the kind of things people would actually need, like for SBOs or for people who are actually looking for stuff. I have seen that because you can look at like locations, not at locations, but you can look via location at how pools are distributed across the globe. And it really opens your eyes to where stuff is, and like it has a massive impact on the decentralization as well, not just like what the fill is. And it's interesting that you said if you put it on max decentralization, like the pools are showing up around 7.5 to 8 million or something as like there, because that would put you around maybe 8 or 10 blocks per epoch as well, which is a good reward for someone to be looking at. Like if they're jumping in a pool like that, you're basically almost guaranteed blocks, like more or less, aren't you? As low as you can, with like 1 block every epoch minimum.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to have a massive upside as well. So it's like an interesting number that they've picked to have at the bottom end. I'm not quite there, but hopefully soon I'll be pushing that number 15, creeping up behind you at Astra. That's what I'm on. I want to be on 14 on that list.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to encourage decentralization, the top pools, you know, you've got one here at 23 million ADA, 20 million, 20 million, 22, 17, 14, 14, 18, 13. But, you know, it's not the 60 million that we see on the data list rankings. And once these ones get saturated, they probably fall off that. Once you get over 30, 40 million, you're lower on that ranking. You're no longer in the top 20. So it starts to promote these other ones that were just below, and then they get saturated. And then you just try and saturate it that way, rather than keeping it all in the bigger pools. But another thing is, every time someone talks about this on Twitter or something like that, you get the argument back saying that you know, successful pools, they have a right to be successful and to have a lot of pools if they want, and you know, it's hard to argue against that too. It's
an argument
market.
because there is an argument against it. Their success is a product of IOHK software, of the ideas that programmers and people like Charles Hoskinson brought forward. It's not as if they invented something new themselves. What did they invent to be successful? They rode on the success of the blockchain code. So there is an argument against that. I don't see why they should be considered successful just on their own. Most of it's done by IOHK.
I mean, I know this is like a free market and they don't want us to control how pools manage themselves. The whole point is to, you know, do whatever you want. If you want to make multiple pools, you should have that right. But the truth is if we want to work to keep the network decentralized and running the way that it's supposed to run, should we put in restrictions? Like, should pool owners that want to open another pool need to take it a vote between the network of other stake pool operators and say, okay, we're going to vote if you can do another pool or not, because we know that multiple pools owned by one person hurts the network. And so we have to decide. I mean, I thought as stake pool operators, our responsibility is to preserve the integrity of the network. It's to preserve the reliability, the decentralization of the network. And so for me, in my head, I think, well, if you have a pool and it's saturated, you're obviously doing well enough to survive. You're living, you're making a good living, and you're doing something right. You want to open another pool, I think it should go to a vote to all the stake pool operators to say why you want to open another pool. And we should have a choice, because we're letting these guys kind of de-thread the decentralization of the network by creating multiple pools and consolidating the network. Obviously, this idea goes over very terribly, because the people that have the most money are the ones that are very involved in marketing, and they usually have multiple pools, and they don't want to even entertain the idea. But the truth is, it's better for the network if all of us as a group of stake pool operators choose how the network grows in some way, and to stop the centralization of multiple pools coming up. Because, I mean, we could stop Binance from opening multiple pools if we were to employ something like that. We'd say, no, you're Binance, you have one pool, and you know, you can have one pool. If you want to open another one, we have to take it to a vote, and you have to tell us why it's going to help the network that you have multiple pools. I don't know, it's a crazy idea, but obviously pools are doing what they're doing. And so how do we counter that so the future doesn't get more consolidated? I don't know. We're going to have to change it.
We have an operator, I think it's 1% pools, got about 5% of all the staked with these pools. So what happens if he gets ridden over by a bus tomorrow? And then that 5% of the network, of the delegation, of all delegation that's been delegated, won't be producing blocks, which will affect the stability of the network, because 5% is quite a lot. And it's a lot of blocks are going to go missing, because he won't be there to renew his KES certificate or whatever it is. So yeah, it's not desirable to have multiple pools, but you can't prevent that. What can happen is a pool operator, let's say we introduce this restriction where everybody can only operate one pool, they can just make another personality and then create another pool that way. It will take a lot of work if they want to do 20 pools. They have to make 20 personalities, 20 Twitter feeds, 20 accounts. I don't know if it's going to go, if it'll ever go down that road, but it's an idea to explore.
Yeah, I don't think there's an easy answer to that. Like, I'm obviously part of the single pool alliance. Like, I'm only interested in having a single pool. But you know, if your pool was saturated, like, I completely understand why there are people with multiple pools. You know, and like it makes total sense. Some people have made pools with for one for a charitable thing and one for their personal one, which they set up. Like it's almost impossible to police effectively. And then at some point, it's like I mean, I'm not smart enough to come up with the right solution for it. I'm not exactly voting for people to have multiple pools because I'm literally part of the single pool alliance. But I don't blame people for doing that either. You know, like, fair enough. You guys, you've put loads of work in with the marketing or whatever. Like, do your other pools. Like, they're almost not the ones that I'm arguing with. It's more like Binance and like you say, 1% who have like a huge control of the network, which puts everyone at risk. And Binance as well. Like, Binance isn't even a good option for people who are delegating. You know, people often delegate through Binance for convenience, but it's actually more dangerous because you don't own that. Like we were saying before, like, you're buying your crypto and leave it on exchange. It's like leaving your shopping at Sainsbury's, and like why would you do that? You take it home with you, don't you? You're not leaving it at the shop after you bought something. Like your new iPhone, you're just going to leave it in Apple. Like, it just makes no sense. But it's hard to explain that to people so that they actually understand it and it makes sense. And yeah, it's really important for us to, I think, concentrate on people with massive amounts of like control of the network, like Binance, for example, rather than squabbling amongst ourselves often for like the sake of 2 or 3 pools. It's that's not the important issue right now. You know, there's bigger fish that we need to tackle before that. But it's a really interesting conversation that I try not to get involved with most of the time because everyone, like, a lot of people have such strong opinions about it, and it can be difficult not to upset someone when you don't mean to, just because you're trying to have a more open discussion about it. It's one of those things you've got to kind of tread lightly when you engage in something, especially on Twitter regarding single pools or multi pools. That is difficult, you know.
Yeah, no, it
very
is.
well said, Reese. Very well said.
Exactly.
Sorry, I cut you off, James. You were about to say something.
I was going to say exactly, because it is a sensitive subject, and we definitely don't want to offend people, and we don't want to hurt people's revenue, because when we bring up this conversation, it's a direct impact on somebody's revenue. And so it is a sensitive subject, and we do need to tread lightly, but I think it is something worth exploring, because it does mean the decentralization of our network and the stability of our network and how we process blocks and who controls what. And it's important. How do we attack it? Like, how do we look at this thing in a neutral fashion and even get the interest of those multiple stake pool operators and say, hey, look, how can we do this better? I mean, okay, so for example, like I said, I was working with CPAs or a CPA. I want to try and onboard all of his businesses. There's a possibility I could get saturated. You know, he said he has 140 small business owners. They all make at least 2 million plus a year. And one of them's a billionaire. And so once I get this ball rolling, it's possible I could be saturated. What was my thought? I said, hey, if I get saturated, what am I going to do, Andrew? Send them your way, right? I don't want to open another pool because it's better, or you guys, right? Well, when because Andrew and I had this conversation before when you guys weren't there, but my concept idea was not to saturate my pool and make more pools, because I respect the network protocol. I respect what we're trying to do. My idea was to vet pools to make sure that they have proper security, they're minting blocks, they're serious about it, and then they get on a list. And then once I saturate, then we go to the next pool and we saturate them. And then we go to the next pool and we saturate them. I never had the idea in my head of opening multiple stake pools, because I know it is directly against the network needs and decentralization. I don't understand why other people just don't see it that way. That's my problem with it.
No, I think you're on point. I think you're right about that, you know, and having something like that in place is great. And like with the whole, there are enough organizations, not just the Single Pool Alliance, but it's just the one that I'm a part of. So that's what I defer to. But yeah, having people you can kind of promote afterwards is really important. But it's something that we need to do ourselves, and we can't enforce on other people, isn't it? So we've got to just stand for it and do our thing and kind of stick to our guns. And that's really the only way that we're ever going to make that change.
It's just be the example. But I think to be the example, we also need to advertise what we're doing, and we also need to advertise why. And we don't need to look at all the other stake pool operators that have multiple pools, but we do need to teach. Truth is, having multiple pools is not a good thing. And we are going to live by that example. We're going to protect this network by making sure that when we get saturated, we have pools that we are going to start to feed. And then those guys have pools when they get saturated that they're going to feed. And it's just this big trickle down effect, which is really how the network is supposed to work in the first place. When pools get saturated, other pools were supposed to get saturated. Those guys weren't supposed to build pools and take, because that's how the algorithm works, right? It's trying to divide all the blocks up between pools. And then when one gets saturated, then it starts to work on other pools to saturate it. Well, it stops the algorithm when these guys just produce another pool, and then the algorithm just starts filling their pool and not setting up our pool. So yeah, I agree. I think we should just be the example. We should educate, and we should teach the value of decentralization and why we're doing it the way we're doing it. And you're right, we can't control others. We'll just let them keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, well said too. You mentioned that there's also a revenue aspect to it, like talking about it, you're talking about someone's revenue, but it's also taking away revenue from the smaller stake pool operators in a way when you have so many people splitting up their pools. You're just starting to compete a little bit more with the smaller stake pool operators that are trying to be in that group. It's a hard issue to talk about. It's free market. It's not really worked into the protocol to punish people with multiple pools or to prevent that. So it's there. And I was just looking at the stats, and single pool operators make up 21% of the network. Almost 80% go to the big multi pools. And you were right. 1% has 5% of that. Yeah, that is insane. And when it just you can imagine 5 years in the future, do you think that 21% is going to get smaller or larger?
They're trying to squeeze out
smaller.
the single stake pool operators.
It's going to get smaller.
So it begs the question, so how do we solve these issues? So I'm a force of advertisement for my stake pool. The energy and time I put in every time, okay, go to Cardano.com, check out maximum mint stake pool, ticker AMINT. That's me over and over and over and over. And then you guys are doing the same for your pools. And I'm trying to figure out how we can focus efforts on a pool, get that one moving, then all of us step back, focus our efforts on another pool, get that one going. I think united, if we were to, just like this, right now, all of us are talking, and we're gonna upload this video, all of us are advertising our pools with a huge consolidated effort. There's 4 people that have connections to other people. And now these other, are the people that delegate or the people that are interested, they're going to see all 4 of us and say, hey, these are some stake pools that I can delegate to. And I'm kind of understanding why it's important to be decentralized and not go to multi or stake pools that have multiple pools. So I don't know, maybe this event, this very thing we're doing is already starting to help solve the issue, because 21%, it sounds like single stake pools will die if we don't do something. And then that means the end of the decentralization for Cardano. And that's not good. We need to have a completely decentralized network.
20% falls directly into the Pareto effect, where 80% of the delegation, or in any system, 80% is controlled by 20%, and 20% of the delegation. I don't know if you know the Pareto principle, where
80-20, yeah.
The top 20% own 80% of the wealth, and the 80% of the people only own 20%. Now, I actually brought this subject matter, several times on Twitter, and addressed Charles Hoskinson about it, and he actually responded, and he said they're working on it. It's just that the math is hard. So there's some people at Oxford University trying to find a new way distributing more delegation along to counter this Pareto effect. Cardano is a magnificent example of how this is just, a natural thing. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
We have the opportunity in Cardano with math to break this, to change this, so we have a more distributed system amongst our delegators and our operators. Can be done. It's going to be hard.
Yeah. It's going to be much smarter people than me who figure this out, but there must be a way to actually do it, and we'll just trust that they can actually get that done, because
it would help if the dead list,
it's the law of nature.
Yeah,
like
it would help if dead list improves
nature.
itself as well. It would help if dead list gets improved.
Yeah. There's and you think if every wallet and every pool ranking website like Pool Tool, Ada Pools can figure that out, even if they have a different system individually, like that what was the one that you were talking about earlier by London Pool? Pool rank, yeah. So if everyone implemented their own version of something like that, then that could make that more autonomous, where people find smaller pools and they start to go there because they're the ones that are then promoted through all the different platforms. It doesn't necessarily need to be something that would be fixed with Cardano, like Ouroboros is broken or something like that. It doesn't necessarily need to be that. It could just be the ranking systems and which ones are put in front of people through the wallets and through the websites that can change everything.
Absolutely.
I think anyway.
Well, I mean,
what do you guys think about this multi-delegation function that's coming along? Is it going to work?
I think it's great.
I would love it.
One of my guys is one of my delegators is delegated into multiple pools, and he's managing a couple of wallets, and I've spoken to him and a couple of other people who do something similar, and I think it's great, like, for people to be able to do that, because a lot of people who want to, a lot of people want to support people who do know a lot about Cardano and understand how it works. They're on board as well, even if they're only delegating that. They don't have the understanding or the kind of risk factor to set up their own pool because for whatever reason, or they don't have enough ADA, but they want to be able to split amongst and support the decentralization in their own way. And I know the desire for that with a lot of people is out there. Like, a lot of whales want to do that kind of stuff. So once it can happen, it would just make the whole process a lot easier. I think it's a great thing.
Absolutely. I mean, they could even design it into the algorithm, that a percentage of every delegation to a multi-stake pool gets redistributed to a certain set of smaller pools, a random set of smaller pools. I mean, they wouldn't mandate it, but it would be neat if people could do that and say, hey, okay, you want to be on a major stake pool, do 80% there, and then help support the smaller stake pools as they're up and coming, and 20% will just randomly get selected into this group or something. They could make it decentralized if they wanted to. Just like dataless ranking is off in a way that really doesn't help. They can alter that. And I think
they could break it down so they don't even see pools. You could have it so
Sure.
it doesn't even matter. We each operate our own pool. We don't need to be a brand. It's not like we need to promote ourselves. It's you just click a stake button in a wallet and it automatically is evenly distributed across the entire network, and everyone just rises together. Like that could be an option. That could be something that might.
That's a great idea right there. That's a great idea. Just take it out of the hands of everybody. Let the algorithm do the decentralization. Take out, the worry from everybody, because when people delegate, they're gonna be like, well, I'm delegating, boom, and let the algorithm just distribute the funds.
I think that's how Algorand.
If it's 5.5%, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think that's how Algorand does their staking. I mean, I'm not an expert in Algorand, but I did see someone talk about that staking on Algorand is just like that. They just basically click a button. They don't have to search out a pool and delegate to that pool or anything like that. It's just taken care by the network. I don't know.
I like it in a pool. I like the idea of it being a brand. Like, so for me, like I've already invested in that kind of thing, and like I enjoy that process, but it lays it on the SPO to be not just tech savvy, but marketing savvy as well. And you need to put a lot of work in to earn your blocks. So maybe that would be a viable solution. I'm sure someone else has already thought of it. I'd be surprised if it wasn't already being used on another blockchain or something, because it does seem kind of like a simple solution. Even if I do like Stoic particularly, it doesn't really matter that much, does it? If we all get blocks, who cares, right?
Right. Absolutely. No, it's a brilliant solution. Usually the simplest ones are the best ones, right? So those are the ones we want to employ. Yeah, I have a lot of hope for the future. I mean, I'm going to keep marketing. I'm going to keep making videos. I'm going to keep producing content and researching and learning every day. And what I would love to do is get a group of people that are at my level, grow with me and learn with me, and just take them just like with you. You know, right? Let's just gather our group and educate them, and hopefully, you know, they can help us grow our pool. I think we really need to communicate out there the importance of decentralization. We really need to communicate the importance of our current situation about the 80-20. I think we really need to make awareness that dataless is, you know, it's a work in progress. It's not ideal for pool selection right now because there are some metrics there that are misleading that need to be fixed. All of these things need to be brought to light so when people do look, they can say, well, this really isn't as trustworthy as I think, or I really shouldn't base all of my decision making off of this because there are some skewed metrics here. The more we educate the public about it through our videos, the more consumers or delegators can make an educated decision on how they can better support the network. Because if they like Cardano and they want to support Cardano, they want to keep Cardano decentralized, it is in their best interest as a delegator to choose smaller pools and to support those smaller pools to keep the networks decentralized. It looks like it's a better option to pick a major stake pool that's, you know, doing that, but really it's better for the network if everybody starts to spread out what they're delegating on smaller pools, because the centralization of the network is not a good thing. I mean, it's bad things.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate. What about the K number? Because at the moment, K number is at 500. So, you know, you can't, you know, at 500, and you can't really support 3,000 pools when K is 500. And then, so would the argument be to change K from 500 to 3,000? But then, you know, there'll be 6,000 pools the next day and you know, 9,000 pools a week later, trying to get that. So what happens to K number if you have this big push to decentralize and to promote all the smaller pools?
So first, we have to understand exactly what K is. And K is the parameter that the algorithm uses to distribute blocks to pools. Right now, K is at 500, right? And so the algorithm is natively fishing out to 500 pools. And then if a pool misses a block, then that pool, you know, then the other pools outside of that 500 have the opportunity to claim a missed block, or the algorithm will randomly send outside of the 500 and feed those pools. But if you're in the 500, you're constantly getting it. If we just did 1,000, now 1,000 different pools are in line to consistently get blocks. And so that's going to take revenue from the 500 and divide it over 1,000. So large stake pool operators, they don't want the 1,000 to come anytime soon. Because if the dollar value of ADA stays the same, let's say it's $1 and it's at 500, and now they're going to 1,000 pools, those guys just lost 50% of their blocks, which means they're losing 50% of their revenue. They want the price of ADA to go up to a certain level, and then for the K parameter to be increased, so it basically monetarily doesn't affect them as much. But the truth is I think with as many pools as we have, changing K, it's debatable. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. The price is a factor, and we have, I don't know, we have to make sure it makes sense for people to continue to be able to make money. And I think that's the big worry about adjusting K too quick. If we adjust it too quick, then all the stake pools lose too much money and then they can't function. It can collapse the system. Whereas if we wait until the price going up, then it's sustainable. I don't think any
it is
of the
going to 1,000. We know that it is going to go to 1,000. 3,000 unlikely. That's going to wait for quite a while.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But it all depends on price too. So we just have to wait for price, and then we'll start to see that K parameter jump. And if price doesn't move and they adjust K parameter, we're going to see a lot of unhappy multi-stake pool operators, because they're going to lose 50% of their revenue, 500 to 1,000.
Well, many of them have mitigated that already by splitting their pools already.
True.
Bloom has done it. BCH, Blue Cheese Steakhouse, has done it. Quite a few pool operators already split their pools in anticipation of 1,000K.
Yeah. So they're already strategically adding themselves in, which weeds us out, because then they're already a known successful pool and they're just dividing up, and so that's another strategic move to debunk decentralization.
I think it's quite unfortunate that K didn't change to 1,000 in March, like it was said to change, because I know a lot of stake pool operators who started up their pools in anticipation of that. And when K remained at 500, it still kept them a little bit, it made it harder for them to get into that top 500. Whereas if it was the top 1,000 pools, then it would make it easier for these newer operators to come in. And I don't know. I mean, George, do you know, like for sure that they're going to change it to 1,000? Because I heard that that's a bit debatable now.
Nothing's for sure. But it was mentioned recently again that it will go eventually. The idea was after or just before Alonso launches. That's what I heard. I think even reference was made to it 2 days ago on the last SPO community call, just briefly. But they weren't giving that too much attention as they're busy with Plutus smart contracts, with the whole Alonso launch and all that.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and they said they were planning on doing K in March to 1,000, but there's no current news on it. That nobody has a date for the change parameter now. So, yeah, we're overdue for the planned K change, and it never happened. They're holding out, and like I said, I think they're holding out for price. They don't want to affect everybody that drastically.
I think they've also got a lot on their plate with the Alonso hard fork. Everything's
for sure.
All hands on deck for Alonso.
I was going to make that as an argument, but would that is it as simple as just basically flicking a switch? Like, is it really going to take that much work to make that parameter change? Or I have no idea. But I thought that they're kind of busy with smart contracts, blah blah blah. But is it actually going to be that much work to make that change? Would it be actually quite a very simple job? They just have postponed it because they're too busy thinking about other things where it could just be done.
Yeah, I don't think it's difficult. I think it changes the dynamic of how the network functions, and if they do it too soon, it could be disruptive to how the network functions.
Okay.
One of the important rules of the network is you want to have pools close to saturation, as many as possible. So if that affects the amount of close to full saturation pools, that's why they may rethink the launch date. We've got to have that in account as well. It's not just having a lot of small pools with X amount of ADA, about 10 or 20% of their saturation point. It's not desirable. We got this index called the desirability index of a pool. It's got to be close to saturation all the time. It goes back to this argument again, where I say, what do you want? The desirability of a pool or the desirability of the network being decentralized? There's a conflict there. They've got to work it out. You can't have both decentralization and you can't have a pool be close to saturation being desirable. I don't know. It's a mathematical
I thought initially they had a wonderful solution, because I thought it was designed in a way to where pools that needed more delegation returned a higher interest rate of return, and that would motivate people to get on the pool because they're going to make more money. And then as the pool gets saturated, the return diminishes to normal. And then
only after it's saturated.
Yeah, and once it starts to reach saturation, that rate goes down, and then it levels out to the standard rate of 5%. I mean, what a great motivator. Look, my pool gives 18% until it reaches a certain point, and then it goes down to 12% and then 7%. Once it's get close to saturation, now we're at the standard 5%, like all pools. What would that do to everybody? Everybody would be jumping off near saturated pools onto smaller pools, and they would cause the pools to rise up. And then what would they do? They would move on to other pools, but people would stay at the 5% or the 6%. eventually when all the pools got saturated, because they'd have nowhere else to go, and everybody would be happy with 5%, they would get to ride up that initial high interest to get the pools going. I think they should do something like that. Motivate, or the algorithm should cause smaller pools to have a higher return to motivate saturation. The algorithm has to do it.
It's really interesting how much of like a critical thinking game theory kind of exercise it is to actually figure this out, because we've been talking about this for what, maybe half hour or so, like actually just discussing this specific topic, and we've all come up with 5 different things that could potentially work and potentially happen. It's like, what, there are all these ideas and there are all these potential solutions, but what's actually going to encourage the behavior that we're after? You know, it's really interesting just to think like at the actual, not just the importance of it, but like the magnitude of like a task that you're actually trying to figure out and trying to get right. Because if like one of our ideas went through and actually made the change, then all it would take was one little thing that was unforeseen to change the entire landscape of how it works. It's like it's crazy how risky it is even to kind of entertain some of these ideas, actually applying some of them without like a very, very intense exercise in critical thinking and trying to figure out how the behavior of just Johnny Average Cardano guy bought it on Binance on the weekend because his barber told him to type situation, because that's what we've been in recently, hasn't it?
Yeah,
like, that's what it's been. It's it's just I've never really thought about how much of an impact any one of these little tweaks or changes can make. It's like, it's kind of scary as well. Like, we got to figure it out. We got, whatever thing is actually applied has to be the right one. You know, it's not like we can just dick about and hope that we get the right answer, like stumble into it. It's got to be right before it happens. Otherwise it could be our own undoing. You know, it could create its own set of problems.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, yeah, there's a lot there, and it has to be thought all the way through. And obviously we do have a lot of ideas, and none of them have been vetted or thought too deeply. They're very superficial, yeah. But hey, they're directions better than the direction we currently have. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not to say that one of them might be the solution, but it's just I think, as well as just coming up with the ideas, like the more we can aggregate different solutions, the more we can be able to apply, kind of consider it from alternate angles and kind of see other people's perspectives. You know, it's just very difficult. It's very difficult to get right.
Yeah, it's exciting and complicated and scary all at the same time. It's like, we don't know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, there's probably a ripple effect. Every one of our ideas, there's probably 10 reasons why it's bad, and then 10 reasons why it can't happen that way because of this and this and this. And it's a very hard, difficult thing to do. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think Cardano's got it right. It's just that, you know, there's a few issues that we all have with it.
It's the people. The people, the idea is solid, the algorithm works, it's just the people are manipulating the algorithm to leverage it, and that's the problem. It's always the people, and that's the whole point of these decentralized network, is to remove the people out of those positions that they're still trying to squeeze themselves in to take control. It seems to be
then, like George brought up, you got the Pareto principle. You know, like at what point is that something that we can actually stop? You know, because like boys will be boys type, you know, I mean, like, there's a reason that those things, like, it's very difficult to kind of figure out. It'd be really interesting to see what they come up with. It'd be really interesting to see what happens.
And that brings the question. So in a meeting that Charles Hoskinson had recently, he was talking about different consensus models, because now we have this, proof of stake consensus model aside from proof of work. And he's like, well, this is a known model that promotes the rich to have more. I don't know if you guys know that. Historically, the proof of stake model is the ownership is your wealth, and the more you own, more wealth you have. And so this is like kings, this is stuff that kings would do. And this is not a model that's cohesive with decentralization. It typically consolidates. And so Charles believes that we're going to need multiple different consensus models. He even mentioned a possible proof of work component, right? Or a proof of merit component, or a proof of storage component, because he's got to figure out how this algorithm can start to reward people for different attributes besides being socially, visible. Because right now, that's what gets your pool going. If you're socially visible and appealing to people, bam, your pool blows up. And he's like, okay, well, we gotta dispel that. How can we do it? And I think the plan is to introduce consensus models. We don't even know how many, but it'll be multiple consensus models that can help the algorithm distribute to people doing different things, not just being good YouTube personalities or good marketers, because that's what's driving the pools now, as we discussed earlier. And so what consensus models do you think we might have in the future? I don't know. Storage might be a great one. You know, somebody responsible for holding blockchain data, you know, that would be a very important one.
But that Chia does something like that, doesn't it? Like, and that has its own problems with managing SSDs and like actually having stuff that will last any amount of time, and like the cost of then setting up farms of storage. Like it's that creates its own like hierarchy and kind of he was talking about that on the Lex podcast, I think, as well. He was talking about maybe having like a proof of work, and that one having so much preference for blocks, and then something else that has something else. But
right,
and
then it would create like these little arenas, right? Like proof of stake would be these arena of leaders with all of the most powerful stake pools, and then proof of storage would be a whole new arena. And so this power can fight this power, or balance this power, I should say. And then we get enough powers in place to where everybody is balancing each other out. I think that's the goal. And the first launch,
it's like yin and yang with a rainbow.
I wish. Yeah, right. It's not. So we have to create. We have to create multiple powers that can work, you know, leverage off of each other and balance each other out. Because apparently, no matter what we create, people will always try and leverage it to max it out for their potential. So we need to create multiples, and then those will balance each other out. It's a really complex, dynamic problem.
Yeah.
Seeing it happen right now.
Wow. Can I ask a less serious question, just to change the mood of this for a little bit? How do you guys describe Cardano stake pools to people who ask you about it? You know, just people who don't know anything about blockchain.
I use the analogy of a credit card processor. We process transactions, we earn a fee, we distribute that amongst your delegators. That's how I do it.
That's a really good way.
I literally say it's processing transactions. Like I basically run part of a network that processes transactions. I think it's the simplest thing people can actually understand. And then if that piques their interest, you can expand on it a bit more.
Yeah, I tell them I made an investment vehicle that, you know, will generate 5% returns. So, you know, you go to a bank and
that's good.
Yeah, you go to a bank, you're going to get 1%. If you buy this crypto and you stake on this stake pool, you're going to get around 5%. It's just an investment vehicle. And when you invest, why do you get the returns? Because you're assisting the network security, you're assisting the transactions and validations. People seem to gravitate towards that. They like, oh, I can make 5%. I haven't heard that number in a long time.
It's almost like you're answering a different question, though, isn't it? Like, even though it's the same, you just frame it in a completely different way, don't you? Like, that's really interesting that you say that. Like, when I usually just have the simplest little answer that explains what it is rather than what it can do for you. And I think framing it in that way is like, that's genius. I'm stealing that, definitely.
Yeah, go for it, brother. Take it. Yeah, I mean, the truth is we can see it all over the place. People are motivated by money, and the truth is a lot of the people these days don't have a lot. And if you can show them a way where they can make more returns on their money, they're going to jump. I mean, like I said, that CPA, he's a friend of mine for years. He didn't know what I was doing. When he found out, he was like, whoa. So we need to open an LLC right now. We're 50-50 partners. I'm giving you money. We got to do this. And so people will react if you show them, look, it'll cost you nothing. It's an investment on your own, and we're going to return and pay you every 5 days.
How do you explain it, Andrew?
I talk about like a bank ledger. Like when you put money in a bank, somebody writes down how much you put in. You put in $200, they'll put down $200 into your account. It's similar to that, the blockchain. Whereas, but instead of one person responsible to adding to that ledger, it's a distributed network, distributed system, and us stake pools for the Cardano network, the Cardano ledger. Every time we mint a block, it's like writing a line in that ledger, that bank ledger. And then that ledger is then shared across everybody else's ledger, everybody else's blockchain. Well, not blockchain, but everybody else's version of the blockchain, and validated. So yeah, I then eventually go to like, it's just processing transactions, and it's just like adding onto this giant ledger.
I also mentioned to people when I'm promoting Cardano that the majority of your wealth appreciation is from creation of your wealth. Most of it will come from the appreciation of the value of Cardano, not necessarily the interest. You get interest, but the most important investment is just to invest in Cardano, regardless whether you delegate it or not. It's going to appreciate in value. That's important.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I get like a little bit, not skeptical, but I lose a little bit of faith in crypto, I then just go and read about fractional reserve banking and fiat currencies, and it just gets me right back onto it. I'm like, oh no, this is ridiculous. This fractional reserve banking is ridiculous. You're just diluting the money supply and making it worth less over time.
Creating money out of thin air.
Hard money.
Yeah. Creating money out of thin air from debt is definitely a losing game. And so that fractional reserve lending, I don't even know how they thought about it. It's genius, but it's definitely not.
How did they get away with it?
How do they get away with it?
It's as bad as Monsanto and their corn, their genetically engineered corn. It's how did they even get away with it?
You got to give it to them at some point, haven't you? You got to be like, well done, guys. You did all right there.
And then they made it legal. They made it legal. They got the legal system to allow it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like you can't counterfeit money, but we can.
Yeah,
we're going to just print money all day long, just pull it out of thin air. Bad idea, as you can see, because now what's our economy looking like right now? Like the dollar is in terminal spin. I mean, we've already hit the threshold where it's losing value at an exponential rate. It's not, the American dollar is not doing well. 31. They're just printing too much money. Let's just put it that way. They're just printing way too much money. And all the other currencies are pegged onto the dollar. And so as the dollar loses value, all of these weaker currencies are starting to collapse and jump in and adopt crypto. So we saw it with Venezuela, we saw it with Greece, we saw now El Salvador wants to jump in and start to accumulate Bitcoin. So it's just going to snowball at some point. I kind of feel like it's snowballing like lately. Do you guys feel like there's more traction and adoption and,
with institutions, with the big investors. Yeah.
I'm starting to feel it.
It's a hedge against inflation now. So
absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
Great for us, us investors.
Yeah. I mean, having a certain amount of Cardano at some point will be life-changing for all of us, because once the price runs because of all this adoption and utility, and it's really going to change everything. It's going to just jump one day. I really think so. I'm excited about it.
Reese, how did you get involved with Cardano? How did you first hear about it and crypto in general? I don't think you answered that one.
I kind of got into it. I heard about it when it first kind of started coming around with Bitcoin. And I remember when I was really interested in it when Max Kaiser, I think single-handedly got to $1,000 at one point, just by tweeting about it and going crazy in like 2013 or something. And I thought I missed the boat. So I kind of just forgot about it for 5 or 6 years. And then I really started thinking more about it as soon as kind of COVID came around and lockdown hit. And I got really lucky because everything just crashed in front of me. And then it was like the perfect opportunity for me. So I got really lucky with that. And since then, I was just kind of buying bits and learning loads and just immersing myself in it while obviously the gyms were shut for me. And the more I heard about Cardano, the more I started watching the whiteboards and the videos by IOHK and stuff, the more I kind of fell in love with it. And I really wanted to participate more in the network and be, because a lot of my mates were just buying stuff and hoping for it to go up one day, And for me, that didn't seem like a very good strategy. I kind of wanted to have more of an impact. And so that's kind of how I think I went to the summit last year, the online summit, and I I spent the whole time they had stuff on. I had my phone set up. I was in there. I was dodging between all different rooms and kind of just absorbing as much as I could. And it literally just indoctrinated me with it, basically. After that, I saw your video because it was on my mind all the time. I was like, what can I do? How can I do this? Like, how can I get involved? Once I saw your video, Andrew, on YouTube, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. Like, this might be something I could do. I could learn. And then I just, like I said to you before, I made it my full-time job to learn the ins and outs of the tech and how to set it up. And really, because in your video, you basically walk someone through the whole process of using the guild scripts, don't you?
Yeah.
Which is great if you just want to turn a pool on. But to actually understand how it operates and understand the maintenance of it and how to change things and what everything even means. Like, if you're not tech savvy, like, you don't even understand. I spent so long like learning about Linux and how cloud serving worked, and the networking, the cybersecurity, and it's been a huge learning experience for me. It's been absolutely amazing. It's completely changed my life, like this last year. And the more I learn about Cardano, the more I've been kind of heavy on it, shall I say?
Yeah.
And yeah, like everything else is basically a throwaway thing for me now. All I care about that everybody buys Cardano, and it's like I'm making videos all the time. It's all I really think about is how the pool's doing, and yeah, that's kind of how it all happened, and that's how I got where I am now. It's not like the pool's the most successful pool. We got 2.5 mil, something like that, which is decent. You know, we make blocks all the time, but we still have 0 block epochs, and it always makes me sit tight on my seat when we have days like that. But we've also had an 8 block epoch at 2.5 mils, so we've had our fair share of like that. That was like 18% return for everyone, that, and I have a 0% fee as well. So for me, it's like not like I get anything from that, anything extra on top of 1 block. That just means I'm happy for my delegators, and I got a really big smile on my face when I do the video at the end of the epoch.
It's good to know that other people feel exactly the same, because you just described my entire life, man. That's exactly what I was doing. It's like, I'm looking at my pool, I'm trying to make blocks. I feel exactly the same way you do. It's so funny.
Like once you have the pool running, you don't really need to look at it all the time. You know, you get your notifications set up, you get your pings happening, like, you know, everything's working all right. But man, like, I only run leader logs when there's an update to do, because that's the only time I really want, like, it matters if I know when blocks are coming. You know, that's when it really matters. The rest of the time, I just like to get surprised. You know, I'm like, oh, like, I made a block. I get all excited about it. I'm like a little kid running around the gym. Yeah. And yeah, I love the excitement of it. It's so much fun, and it's such a novelty little thing. Like, it doesn't really matter, but I only find out when it's important, and the rest of the time it's like, what will I get this epoch? Am I going to get 2? Am I going to get 4? Like, it's become a whole like thing in my flat. Me and my girlfriend, she is like so sick of me talking about it. I know, definitely. I get her in the videos every now and then for a bit of fun.
Yeah, we all have wives and girlfriends here, and I know my wife's like, enough about the Cardano. Like,
and pool.
It's all I know these days. It's all I know. It's all I can talk about, you know.
My girlfriend can tell you the amount of blogs I've had for the past 10 epochs off the back of her head, because she's heard it so many times. She'll be like, yeah, that was an 8% return or something. Well, that was a 3% return. It's embarrassing. Like, how I share that much with her.
That's awesome, though. I love it.
It's good to run reader logs if you're going to be maintaining your pool sometime.
Oh yeah, and it's not that I never do. It's not that I never do. Like, sometimes I need to know, but unless I need to know, I won't run it, because I don't need to know all the time. You know, sometimes it matters, absolutely 100%. And when I need to know it, I'll run the lead logs, but it's not my priority. I like the surprise.
This epoch, unfortunately, I'm producing 0 blocks, but it's given me the opportunity to move my pools. At the moment, they're not on green servers, ecologically friendly servers. So I'm moving my pools, all my pools, hopefully this epoch, to new service providers. We all have ecologically friendly servers. Oh, so yeah, cool. Knowing what's coming ahead helps me with that. Yeah, I always run my leader logs.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. I understand, 100% understand why you made that decision.
Yeah. I used to always run my leader logs, but I mean, it got to a stage where I only really needed them if I was planning maintenance, if I was planning an update, or if I was planning to change servers. Other than that, I don't really need to know. Sometimes I run it just because it's kind of nice to know what's coming up in the epoch. But I'm with Reese. I generally don't run the leader logs unless I need to do some maintenance on my pool that epoch.
Yeah, same. Only if there's anything critical coming up. I really don't care. Like I said, I like to be surprised. I like to run around the house and say, "Oh, we went to the block. I'm so excited." So yeah, I would only run it if I'm going to do maintenance. And the way I do maintenance anyway, I have a backup clone, and I'll drop my keys in that one, run it, and then shut it down. So my uptime is 100%. I technically never go down, even when I'm updating.
Yeah, that's good.
What do you guys?
Sorry, Andrew, how did you
Yeah.
get into it? Because you didn't say how you got into Cardano either.
It's very similar to yours. I mean, I got into it last year during the March crash. Like you, I've been interested in cryptocurrencies for a very long time, but every time I looked at cryptocurrencies, I would look at the price it was 5 months earlier and see that it was way cheaper 5 months earlier or way cheaper a year ago. So that always sort of like prevented me from actually buying a lot of cryptocurrency. And so when the March 2020 crash happened, the COVID crash, I thought, well, this is the bottom. You know, this is as close to the bottom as you would get. And I researched, well, I looked into so many different cryptocurrencies, and ADA was the one that I liked the most, mainly because of its approach to helping the third world countries, helping countries in Africa. I grew up in a third world country. I grew up in Fiji. And so in Fiji, the banking system there is, it's, you know, they charge you when you want to get money out. So if you go to an ATM, they'll charge you like $2 or like $1.50. And then, no, sorry, 40 cents if you want to get money out from the ATM. And then $2 if you want to get money out through the over the counter at the banks in Fiji. And then they have all these other things. And when you want to withdraw a lot of money, you have to kind of plead with the bank. No, you have to argue your case to the bank why you want to withdraw your own money. That's your own money, man. You know, like why do you need to have that conversation with the bank? So in these third world countries, it's a little bit different from the banks in like the UK and in Germany. And so when I heard that their approach was to try and help out places like Ethiopia and help out places in Africa, and then I couldn't help but imagine them eventually helping out places like from the Pacific, from where I grew up. And so that's what drew me into Cardano. And then the more I learned about it, it just started to make more and more sense. I like their slow approach. Everybody talks about how bad their slow approach is, but I like it because they're not breaking things. You know, they're trying to do things. This is a serious thing. You don't want to do a shitty job the first time. You know, you want to get it right the first time. It's a lot of money at stake. No pun intended. But and like we're seeing the problems with Ethereum. These people losing like $73 million worth of Ethereum because they didn't really do the staking thing properly on Ethereum compared to Cardano. With Cardano, delegators, they don't have to worry about their ADA getting lost. The ADA doesn't leave your wallet. The ADA is always in your wallet, always in your control. There's no lock-in period. You can take out that ADA as soon as you want, you know, whenever you want, throw it back on the exchange, sell it whenever you want. You don't have to wait 28 days or whatever.
No, that's excellent. I totally agree. It all starts with luck, right? Like it looked like a good project. Was it going to do what it promised? None of us knew. But then, you know, as time progresses, I go back to all of the videos and the lectures that they released before all of this started to unroll. And every single thing that Charles talked about has been executed just as he said. And so you're right, this is a slow plan, a slow unroll, but it is on point. They have followed everything. And, you know, when you look at all of it, it equals like a really excellent network that really trumps anything else. I mean, this thing, like I said, Cardano is not going to be stopped. The way they developed it is just, they've covered every base, and it's dynamic. I mean, we can do these merry hard forks, and we can change anything if it needs to be changed. So not only were we built foundationally just superior. If something does come up in the future that we did not anticipate, Cardano is capable of adapting that change. We can add in side chains, or we can manipulate our main blockchain. They're even talking about running parallel chains, to speed up validation time. So it was luck getting into Cardano, but now it's a very clear-cut picture. This thing is going to run, and it's going to run well.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about all the Ethereum killers that didn't quite kill Ethereum. You've got the Tezos, you've got EOS, you've got all these other ones that, Tron, that they were saying that they were the Ethereum killers, and then they didn't do quite well against Ethereum. What makes you certain that Cardano is not going to go down that path? Or is there a little bit of are you a little bit worried that it might not actually be an Ethereum killer?
I really think it is going to be a coexisting environment. I don't think any crypto is going to die. Will we pull market share from Ethereum? 100%. We're going to pull market share. Ethereum will try and recover and do what it's going to do, and maybe it needs to reinvent itself. Maybe it needs to reinvent its purpose. I don't know. But I think Cardano will reduce Ethereum's market share and capitalize on that and grow and be strong and be what it is. I don't know what Ethereum will be, but I don't know. I think everybody can eventually coexist. And I think that's the point of Cardano, is to allow these other networks to continue on and to have a basement layer of Cardano that it runs on, so all the other networks can run better. So I don't see us killing anybody. I see us enhancing the frontier of cryptocurrency and how it's going to move forward for the future.
I think the most important argument for Cardano is the costs of running if you have a small business, the costs of your transactions. So that's the killer argument. Ethereum is too expensive. They're going to resolve that. So yeah, I agree with James that we're going to coexist.
And Ethereum's doing some interesting things. Did you hear about the token burn for the fees now? They're planning on, because Ethereum has no market cap, right? So it's an inflationary coin. They're actually talking about anytime a transaction happens, they're going to do this fee burn, and it's going to turn Ethereum into a deflationary coin pretty soon. I mean, they're really trying.
I thought they voted on that already.
I know it's coming.
I thought they agreed.
Yeah, I think it's coming. It's coming. They're going to start doing it, and so we're going to start to see these changes.
Are you still going to have to pay gas fees? Are we still going to have gas fees with Ethereum with the staking? That's a terrible, terrible format of doing transactions. You have to have gas, and you have to have the
burn is for the gas fee. For some of the gas fee, like a portion of that gas fee will be burnt. It won't even be the whole gas fee. So it'll be a very small amount that's ever burnt at any one time. So I don't think, although it sounds really good and like it got the whole kind of ETH community all excited and tickly, I don't think it's going to have I mean, I don't know that much about it, but I don't imagine it have as much of an effect as people are hoping that it will. Because at the end of the day, you can still just be mining more or producing more blocks and getting more rewards for it anyway. So it's not like there's still going to be a finite amount. As far as I know, I might be wrong about that. I might be completely wrong.
Yeah, I don't know either. But the difference is Cardano seems to be well established with a clear-cut path of what's going on. And from my perspective, Ethereum looks like it's scrambling. They're trying to do different things. Okay, we're going to try and do proof of stake now. Oh, and now we're going to try and do fee burns to change, our coin market cap. It seems like they're just chaotically scrambling to try and fix something, and it just doesn't look great right now.
I think a lot of it's because the ecosystem's so big. So because they've onboarded so many projects, like so much is built on Ethereum already, like making one little change has such an impact on so many people. And so they're reluctant to do much. And I think people have spoken about this before. It'd be very difficult to make any drastic changes. There's no way they can move like in any kind of agile manner or anything like that. Like they're beyond that point where the ecosystem's got too big. There's no with Cardano, it's IOHK at the minute, or IOG, sorry, at the minute, isn't it? And like they're the ones who are doing the work, most of it, and they're starting to onboard stuff, but they have their whole suite of kind of elements of the kind of ecosystem by that they've built themselves, whether it's Atala, whether it's there's smart contracts coming out, like they've designed the protocols, they've implemented it. It's not like someone else has come on and started adding layer 2s to Cardano, layer 3 to Cardano yet. So they've kind of gone and built everything themselves. So it's completely like a whole product in a way, you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't sell like your boots without studs or whatever, you know, like anything like that. It's just having everything together ready to be implemented. And now that it is actually starting, like that process has now come through ahead of most other blockchains getting any real world use case, like actual stuff set in stone, projects happening, and not just like people talking and yeah, this might happen. Like, now we'll see whether Cardano can really do something. I think it's going to have a massive impact. It's hard to say because there's such like everyone loves this Cardano cult thing at the minute. Like we're the cult, but you like look at ETH, you know, like look at ETH, look at Bitcoin. Like their following for them is very very culty already. Like it's kind of funny that Cardano is now being brought in and has that narrative to it. But I think a lot of it's just because Cardano has everything built internally rather than everyone coming from the outside and trying to develop all these things to build on it. I think it's just going to be one unit that's going to, make a lot of the Ethereum projects like the ERC20 projects, like a lot of them are going to become obsolete because Cardano will just do it all in one go, and it'll be a much easier kind of experience for people to do themselves.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. Yeah, the execution is key. And that fragmented way that it's been done with all other blockchains, this consolidated, focused group effort, it's never been done before. And we're seeing that it completely creates a much better, more fluid system, especially with implementation of ideas.
It's one thing, like Ethereum, you've got projects that do staking that are essentially just smart contracts. But their tokens, the ERC20 tokens, they're just a smart contract, and they have their own ecosystem built on top of an ecosystem that's currently mining and trying to switch, and they're staking, and this other project does staking, and then there's this other one that's coming out that does this, and like, how do you manage all that stuff? But having Cardano, that's the thing that really got me excited about Cardano, is that they're doing it all themselves, and a lot of the projects who are coming out for ETH are using Cardano's research to understand the process. That's Cardano have done, like IOHK done all this research. They're the ones who have done all the work that everyone else is trying to benefit off. And so you'd expect them to be able to do it better as well. So I kind of have a pretty high standard for what they're going to come out with, in my own opinion. But I think they're going to go well beyond what I can imagine as well.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. How long are we going to be going on for? I need to go in about 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
15 minutes, yeah.
We can wrap it up now, or?
I can't believe it's been 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah.
2 hours, really.
Wow. Yeah.
Sorry, I was wondering, should I just go in and end it now, or just keep going? I just decided to keep going.
We got to do more of these. That's what we need to do, is just break them up and do more.
I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah. I've had loads of fun. It's been really nice just meeting you guys, to be honest with you, putting faces to avatars.
Yeah.
And I think we could definitely get more of these done.